Welcome to the In a Nutshell podcast with myself, Andrew Davis, and my co-host, Chris Branch. The 10-minute daily podcast where we take out all of the techie talk around generative AI and focus on what the everyday content creator, marketer, and everyday person wants to hear. Now, we've only got 10 minutes, so we're only going to focus on one particular subject. And today we're going to talk about a subject that, if it's not on our radar yet, it will be in the future, and that is inspiration. But what do I mean by that? Inspiration when it comes to a lot of these technologies, because what's happened recently is ChatGPT, essentially, if I'm going to break it down in the most layman terms, is given everyone the access, well, everyone who is a paid user, the access to create their own GPTs or apps. Essentially, you can create apps that gets advice from somebody like Joe Rogan, or you can create apps that helps you come up with the best titles like BuzzFeed or the Daily Mail. But where's the line between inspiration and just straight out stealing? So, Chris, there actually the reason why we came up with this is because Chris sent me a really interesting image that he saw on LinkedIn, where someone was basically talking about people stealing transcripts on YouTube videos and then essentially putting it into ChatGPT or one of the GPTs and training the model and saying, how long will it take until transcriptions on YouTube will be stopped because of this?
Yeah, it's a big one. And now that ChatGPT is multimodal, I don't see a way of it stopping, because it can read PDF, it can read text on PDF, it can read images, it can know everything in an image, pixel by pixel. Like, there's no real way of stopping it now. Like, text files, all of this stuff. Like, say YouTube did stop their inside YouTube transcripts, then there'll just be Chrome extensions to make transcripts possible. These already exist.
You can do it now,
you just not widely used because you can already do it in YouTube. But yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? Like, yeah, the influence word is something I used to think about a lot when I thought about original content for social. And it's like, well, how much have I been influenced by somebody else's content in order to make this? And then I got into curation, which is obviously being very highly influenced by people, and even sharing their stuff that they made without any other, materials involved. So it's a really tough one, because obviously as a content creator, I feel like there should be some reward, like same as opting in for any image models. If I had like a bunch of art out there and an image model wanted to train on that art, that's fine, as long as I get some compensation for that.
Yeah.
It's when you're taking my YouTube stuff without me getting any reward for it, and then you being a clone of me in some way, that it becomes difficult to justify how that's influence and not just directly stealing. Because there's all these quotes about, great artists borrow and brilliant artists steal, or whatever. It's like,
good artists copy, great artists steal.
That's it. But I absolutely butchered it. But like, you knew what I meant.
Yeah, I stole it from someone else. Yeah, that saying is definitely going to come into fruition a lot more, because because a lot of that's how a lot of the models are trained on. It's not trained necessarily on your own data. It's trained on other people's data and kind of curating it all together to come up with this super brain.
And just to elaborate on what you said earlier, ChatGPT, if you're unaware of this, if you're new to AI, essentially what that's been trained on is the majority of stuff on the internet, as far as we know. Wikipedia, like Reddit, loads of sources were cited as being, in the training model. But what these GPTs are essentially you being able to add your own twist on things and upload your own personal data. And this is now completely cost-free, and you needed to be having some level of development or some complex skills to get that to this place before now. So this has essentially unlocked a marketplace for people to do this inside of.
So if we break it down, like even more simple terms, what you can do now on ChatGPT, if you don't know, it's called GPTs. You can essentially call it whatever name you want. So let's say we call it social media caption creator. Let's call it social media caption creator for Instagram. Let's say Instagram caption creator. What you can essentially do is look on the internet, all of the guides that people's put together, You can either download the PDF, or you can save it as a PDF, or just get the copy of it, put it into a Word document. Sorry, get the text of it, put it into a Word document, save it, upload it to a GPT that you've created, the Instagram headline or Instagram caption creator, and it learns what works and what doesn't. Not based off what you think, based off you using other people's work. And then what will happen is you'll get this nice little app, and then you can then go into it and say, I've got this image, and you can upload the image and say, what would be a good caption? Just using this app or this GPT, and it will come up with it based on historical knowledge. Now, there's two ways to look at this. There's one way, which is, oh my God, this is amazing. In fact, I'm on ChatGPT right now sorting this out. But then what we're also saying is that it's the other side. It's that people are essentially going to be stealing other people's work. And the person who created it, they're not going to get that compensation, which a lot of this generative AI world, as Chris mentioned earlier on when he was talking about Midjourney and all the image generators, that essentially is what's happening now, and it's only going to increase unless, I can't even say unless, obviously there's going to be certain regulations that's going to come into play, but I don't see how. I can't see how the regulations are going to stop any of this.
Well, it's because it's seen as transformative, and that's the thing that the courts never really understood with the law and copyright, is that, you might have looked at a Vincent van Gogh image, but you don't store that image and you don't reproduce that image. It's transformative from that image. It's learning pixel by pixel. And, who could have foreseen that computers could have this level of creative transformative capabilities this early on into the generative AI wave? I don't even think the experts really predicted that. They thought that was maybe the last thing that it would take away from humans, was our ability to be creative. Maybe it might take manual tasks and then computer tasks and then very process driven stuff, but not creativity itself. That is a really interesting curveball that I've been dealing with ever since working with these tools, really. And even prompt engineering, which is the thing everyone talks about, if you're aware of this, listening, that's going to become less interesting because DALL-E can make its own prompt. ChatGPT can make its own prompt. You just ask in natural language what you want to see, holding a conversation with your friend. And GPTs might be what, we saw character.ai and we saw Facebook also launching these versions of celebrities, right? This is your own version of creating that. It's instead of saying, here's a Snoop Dogg, here's a Mr. Beast, you go, well, who's the guy I'd like to chat with, and how is it okay to do that? I could train it on, say, a book series like Harry Potter and tell it to talk like Dumbledore. Is that okay? Is anything out there that's ever been created becoming a GPT without licensing it like Facebook has with these people? Is that okay?
Yeah.
That's what we mean by influence being blurred, and where's the lines? And because I could download every Harry Potter book ever written, load it into a GPT and say, learn the character Dumbledore and reply only as Dumbledore.
Yeah.
That's crazy, isn't it?
And that's just off of Dumbledore. It's where it becomes a real person.
Yeah.
You can technically put it into, as you mentioned this just before we switched on. You can essentially get it to learn a whole bunch of Drake songs, the way Drake sings, his cadence, everything, and then say, create me a Drake song. And then it's a case of saying, do you state it's Drake or do you not say it's Drake? And obviously people can kind of work it out. So that's
Drake
where,
GPT.
Drake GPT, Rihanna GPT, Harry Mack GPT. Good thing about Harry Mack, if you don't know him, is a great freestyler. Go to YouTube, check him out. The great thing about him is you don't know what he's going to say next. So it's kind of and he's got all different styles, but
good luck trying to out GPT Harry Mack. Already a GPT.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, and I'm actually going to use a quote by somebody called Paul Rotzer. And he said, people have always been comfortable stealing other people's work and thinking it's okay. Now with AI, people will be doing that at scale. And that essentially is what could be happening in the future.
Definitely.